welcome to the stage, Diane Spencer! Hello! Hello! Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for coming to my show, Hurricane Diane. Thank you for coming. Do you like my roof? Yes. It's pretty, isn't it? Yeah, this roof is a representation of an actual roof. It's an actual roof in Dorset. And it's the roof that belongs to my parents' house because I grew up in Dorset in a little white house with a purple roof on a hill. And my bedroom window was in the roof, and I would sit, yes, I was one of those children, and just banish her to the roof. And I would sit there on a windowsill, sling my legs out, and I'd be sat on my roof in Dorset, and it was quite nice, and that's how I pretty much grew up. So this show is just a collection of stories and conversations from my life, and I'm just so glad that you came to sort of share them. It's really nice. Just a word of advice, if you're ever going to get on your roof, don't do it in fancy dress. I did after a Halloween party, and you know what? A girl on a roof dressed as Batgirl, yeah, it doesn't go down well in Dorset. They like to call the police, which I think is unfair. It's quite sexist. If you see a man on a roof dressed as Batman, everybody just thinks he just wants to see his kids. Deeply unfair. So that's the beginning. Now you might think, well, okay, so right, we've got so far Dorset, roof, grand. Why? Because I don't know about you, but the countryside I think is lovely from a distance. Yeah, by distance I mean the motorway. From a distance, I'm sure you've all seen it. It's rolling fields and all the little houses look like a cover of a fudge box, don't they? It looks beautiful. When you live in it, it's thorny, it's very windy. They don't even have pavements. Do you know what they have? They have stinging nettles. And there's just shit everywhere. Like, there's cow shit. If you pick up a dry cow shit, it doubles as a frisbee. And badgers. I was glad when they culled the badgers because, quite frankly, they're the worst. They just shit everywhere, badgers. Plus, being a ginger person, when I actually go into the countryside, under any kind of sunlight, I burn. And I also have hay fever. So my eyes swell up and I go blind. And animals chase me because they've recognised I'm structurally weak. Growing up in Dorset, I've been chased by a dog, a chicken, a rat, a bull, a pig, and a snake. Basically, half the Chinese calendar has run at me through Dorset. Also, if you actually do get into the countryside and you start talking to the other people who have chosen to live there, I do find English villagers are very nosy. I think they're the most sophisticated surveillance system we have. I think if we really want to know what's going on in Afghanistan, we need to plant English villages all throughout their country, and we'll know where the Taliban are in 2 cake sales and a fete. So yes, didn't really want to go in. And you might say, well, okay, well, don't go into it then. Just stay in your house. It's quite simple. Our house is quite turbulent. Anybody else here grow up with a half-deaf father? That's the ideal moment for somebody to go, what? It's not something I'd like to repeat, because quite frankly, I've repeated enough in my life. And when you want to find your parent, you have to yell to find him, and then as soon as you find your father, you still have to yell for him to hear you. I mean, it's a good thing we lived in the countryside, because we needed a field between us and the neighbours, because I know that my dad, he'd end up with an ASBO, or worse, he'd be in prison for ignoring his ASBO because he hadn't heard he'd got it. And so he's kind of half deaf, but also my mum talks in double entendres. I will explain, like a normal person would say, "Oh, your cat looks sad, give him a cuddle." My mother says, "Your pussy looks sad, go stroke it." But when you're growing up with this, you don't notice it. So instead, like my mother would say, "Oh, I'm gonna," instead of saying, "I'm gonna go out gardening," my mother would say, "I'm gonna go out the back, get on my hands and knees and finger my beans." But as a child, you just go, "Can I finger your beans too, mummy?" And then she'd say something like, "Oh, I'd rather you did. Your father's way too rough with my tender buds." She's not changed. Like, as she gets older now, she does it with a wink, which is really annoying. Like, the first time she met my boyfriend, he had a stomach pain and she's into holistic remedies. So what does she say? I know what you want. You want to chew on a nice bit of ginger. So I have a deaf father, a saucy mother. Now let's add into that the location of the actual house. This house is very close to Yeovilton Air Base. Now I don't know how many of you grew up on a military flight path, but it just means that you have sort of helicopters and Chinooks, Harrier jump jets just come out of nowhere. I mean, Jesus Christ, no wonder the Badgers shit everywhere. And when one of these massive machines goes over your house, the window panes rattle, wind rushes down the chimney, so the whole house wheezes. It just goes, and then all the doors slam. So one evening in the house would be, can we have chicken for dinner? I like chicken. Oh yeah, let's have chicken. I like a nice bit of juicy breast. What was that about a vest? Go put on a vest. Breasts, Des! I said I like breasts. Me too. Wouldn't you sit on the roof? I sat on the roof because I could just sit there, and every time a helicopter went over a hood, I was like, maybe they're coming for me. I mean, put me in the house as well. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm an angry person. So I would be this angry little child in this turbulent house. Now, I am angry despite my hair colour. See, look, you're all giggling because you know the rumour. You're going to be angry because you're a redhead. It's fucking scientifically proven. No, it's fucking not, all right? I know that the Vikings went around bumming everybody, but that doesn't mean we're all doing it now. And the problem is that it makes your anger invalid. Do you know how frustrating it is to say, I'm really fucking pissed off, and somebody goes, well, you're going to be pissed off, aren't you? It's kind of the way you're built. And it's just... So I'm just angry despite my hair colour, but now I just accept it. I just assume that everybody, I now tell them it is. I say it is my hair colour, actually. I say, yes, ginger people, we're all angry because it's our hair follicles. Because as well as only producing pheomelanin, my hair follicles also produce anabolic steroids. That's why I can go from 0 to pissed in just 3 seconds. And it's why you don't see ginger people down the gym. We're scared the weightlifters are going to lick us. I'm a very angry person, and also I'm terribly clumsy. I mean, you've already seen me trip over my shoelace once. I'm a clumsy person, and so angry and clumsy is not a great combination. And my mother tried, eventually all our tables got phased out if they had corners, and they were replaced with just ones with roundy bits. And I grew up believing that you keep ornaments in bubble wrap to keep them fresh for when guests arrive. So that gives you a clue. So one kind of any day in, because I wouldn't go outside, any day in would be yelling because I'd be angry and my dad would be deaf, and then I'd think he's more angry, and then I'd go up to the roof and I'd sit on the roof and I'd write my diaries because I would be indignant. Have you ever reread your adolescent diaries? They're crap, aren't they? You think, is this really me? Oh, mine were rubbish. Because I'm quite angry. Most of mine are in capital letters, and all the words are carved in with a biro. I'm just glad nobody's dead. Any day when I wasn't pissed off, there's it's an epiphany, but it's so vague. It's just now I understand the world. No description. I don't know what I saw. I don't know why suddenly I'm happy. Jesus could have landed and plopped out a kitten. There's nothing there. It's just, flower. This is great. But also, it's genuine rubbish, some of the childish things I've written are quite cute, I want to marry my cat. He's the only thing that understands me. But then, as the diaries go on, they get a little bit sordid as, teenage Di pops out and, right up to kind of sort of... I got this impression that my mum might be reading it, so I started writing in code. But it's not a very complicated code. It was went down Tesco's car park with P. That was the code. Got in the back of P's car. P tried to finger me. I said, no. P said, well, you want to finger me then? Now, some of you might think, was P a boy? Yes. Can you finger a boy? Yes. And in Dorset, it's so dull, it's practically compulsory. So that was me kind of growing up. I notice I'm not the first person to sit on my roof to escape things. They do it now in New Orleans and Japan. Started some kind of worldwide trend. It's my own Gangnam style. Thank you. It's also historically allowed. It's accurate. I was in a hotel and I was reading a Bible, and I was in Proverbs, which is the Clinton card section. And there was this lovely little phrase, and I started reading it, and it says, "It is better to live on the roof of your house." I was like, oh my God, this is actually in the Bible. And I was right. Ha! But then I kept reading. It said, "It is better to live on the roof of your house than inside it with a quarrelsome woman." I'm like, well, what if you are a quarrelsome woman? Where do I go, Jesus? I mean, that's bad advice, because if there is somebody downstairs having a fight with a fighty woman and he comes up to the roof to escape, he's just going to come face to face with fucking round two. I think it's quite, because they still put Bibles in hotels. Did you know this? I think it's quite rude. I mean, in a multicultural time, I think you should either cater for everyone or to cater for no one. I think if you're going to have a Bible, at least have a Torah, a Quran, and the Argos catalogue. I just don't know what its function is. I'm assuming it's to stop sex. No, do you know what I mean? Like, people have met in a travelodge for a mucky fuck. And they go, oh, let's have sex. And then they see that, and they go, oh no, a Bible! Put away the costumes. It's just... I think the only way you could actually stop sex with a Bible is if you smack somebody on the cock with it. But then in my mind, if you're dressed as a nun... That's like a sexy starting pistol, isn't it? Side note, if I was going to invent a dildo for nuns, I'd call it a crucifix. Where was I? Yes. Angry person. Very fighty. Do you know, the first time I got road rage, I was sat on a tricycle. When I went through school, I was in part of a debating team, and we were debating euthanasia, end vote, switch me off, right? That's what I am. I'm just fighty. I'll fight with anybody about anything. I fight with my mum. My mum, she keeps eating seeds, like walnut seeds, linseed seeds, flax seeds. And I say, Mum, why are you eating all these seeds? She says, it's because I want to grow old gracefully. I was like, I'm pretty sure it just means every time you take a shit, you make a Nutri-Grain bar. And then she said, I don't want to like sag, I want to be graceful. I was like, well, can't you just have cosmetic surgery and be done with it? And she's like, that's not graceful. Now, I disagree. I endorse cosmetic surgery because I've had it. You see this tooth here? This tooth started off life up here, and instead of growing down, it grew up. I'm in a book. And it was growing up my face, and it was going to poke out of my face somewhere near my nose, and I was going to have a tusk. And I paid to have this, fixed. Now, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't have touched it if I had had two. I dream of the day I would have had two, because I would have just let that shit grow. I'd have let it poke out. I mean, that is great, isn't it? That is already an hour on Channel 5, isn't it? Just the trauma. Oh, yeah, I'm tusks and I'm ginger. Do you know what? I wouldn't do this. I would just have a website, and it would all be pay-per-view, and it would just be lots of weird photos, like me with my tusks out wearing like frilly knickers, like flipping pancakes and shit. I know there's a lot of perverts out there, and I know they're going to pay a lot of money to whack one off to the walrus lady. Sat there, cuckoo, ka-choo, cha-cha. So, yes, fight with my mum. I fight with my friends, having a fight with my friend at the moment. She keeps staying in touch with her ex. I said, don't do it. And he dumped her. And she's like constantly ringing him, texting him. I'm like, no, block, delete, unfriend. If you've got kids with them and you need to talk to the twat, fine. But other than that, just fucking move on. And she said, he needs me. I was like, no, he doesn't. He needs just a friend to help him move all of his shit out of your front room. That's all he needs. You should just, when you break up with someone, just be generous. Like, I broke up with someone, and I let him keep the rabbit after I boiled it. I'm joking. The one time I was going to communicate with one of my exes, I was going to do it by post. I was going to shit into a soft bag. And then I was going to send it recorded delivery, so he had to sign for it. And then I thought, actually, I'm not going to go to all that trouble, because he'll just think I care. So yes, fight with my mom, fight with friends. I fight with just people. Like, I was doing a gig and I told a joke about oral sex. Oh, the fucking scandal. And some woman yelled out at the back of the room. She went, "You're an embarrassment to women!" I was so excited. I was like, think about all the women who have been embarrassing for their time. Joan of Arc, Marie Curie, Kerry Katona. And I thought, wait a minute, that implies women have agreed. That implies all the women have got together and they've all agreed on what's embarrassing. Well, hallelujah, because I find women are the most disagreeable gender I have ever encountered, and I have only encountered two. I think we're terrible. Do you know what? We can't agree on what sexism is, and that's why feminism has never worked. You can wolf whistle at two different women, and you will get two different responses. Like, you wolf whistle at two different women, and one will go, "Don't do that, I'm an independent woman." You wolf whistle at another one, and she'll go, "Shut up! Do it again! Don't touch it! I'm independent, fuck off." And it's just... And this is the problem. We don't understand sexism, so we can't fight it. And like, do you know what? There were two events that happened, and this happened just last year. Two events, right, in the middle of London about feminism, and they were so different. Like, one had all these Hollywood stars wearing white T-shirts, stood in front of Big Ben doing this. You know what this was? V for Vagina Day. Thank you. I was like you. I was like, if you want equality, don't bring your genitals into it. You might as well march through London screaming, "I'm C for camel toe champion." It's just, no. The other one had a parade of women, and you could wear whatever the hell you wanted, and it was called the Slut Walk. Yeah, guess what many people came dressed as? Better than that, quite a lot of people had the word slut written on their foreheads. Yes. Now, I did not know what was going on when I walked past this. So what do I say as a feminist? Finally, a punishment that fits the crime. Do you know what? The only thing I ever get hope on in us agreeing is when I watch a makeup advert. Because when I watch makeup adverts, I love them. Because at the bottom it says in little writing, 80% of 213 women agree. And I think that's great. It doesn't say what we agree on. But it makes me think we should always move in packs of 213. We can find out who the difficult 20% are, and we can fucking sack them off, and the other 80% we'll just send to the UN. So yes, angry, clumsy, fighty. You know what? You know when you know what you're like as a person, and you kind of go, "Oh, I'm deeply flawed." And you conclude certain things are not for you. Like, I concluded I will never be an astronaut. I can't even get the keys to my dad's Citroen. I will never own a plate without a chip in it. Never going to happen. And I thought I would never fall in love, because I just thought it won't happen because of who I am. It will not happen. I will never be loved for me. And I started dating someone, and I liked him so much. But I thought, at some point this is going to go wrong, because previously it always had. It's not off-putting at all, is it? You were obviously listening very intently, and he went, "Fuck it!" I had to draw attention to it, because even I saw it, and I'm blind in these things, oh my word. No, I'm sorry, Drew, you're doing a very good job. You're doing very well. Where was that? Yes. So I liked him so much, but I still wanted to try. But choosing to date him was like choosing to watch that film Titanic. You know how it's gonna end, but you still press play, and you watch it unfold. You're like, "Oh, that's nice. They're flirting over dinner. Oh, fucking a car, lovely." And you know all the time that iceberg is moving into the shipping lane. And you know it's a matter of time until all the vol-au-vents are on the floor and there's 200 dead Irish people. And that's my love life. But you know what? I thought I'm still going to try, and the way that I will keep hold of him, I will just pretend to be somebody else for as long as possible. Yeah. Fantastic plan. Before we even slept together, That was a quick jump, wasn't it? Before we even slept together, I thought, no, I'm going to be like the perfect woman that I want to be. I'm going to shave my vagina. It's about bloody time. Now, honestly, I was like some horrible time traveling event. Like, my brain's 2014, but my tits popped out a while ago. But it just looked like a tribute to 1974. It's just. And so I was like, right, I've got to deal with this. And I was watching the television, and I saw Jenny Lopez. And Jenny Lopez was dancing away, looking pretty. And then suddenly she whipped out a razor. I was like, oh, Jenny Lopez has a razor. And then Jenny Lopez did this. Done. I was like, I want that razor. I want Jenny Lopez, hair ain't nothing but a thing, razor. I got that exact razor. I dragged it down the front of that thing. That didn't change. The razor had so much hair on it, it looked like Beaker from the Muppets. I had to keep hacking that shit down. I don't know why they put safety bars on those fucking things, because it was like trying to saw through a rope with a pencil sharpener. Now, what nobody tells you when you're trying to do this is that it's very foldy down there. And is this too early? It's past 9 o'clock. If you're having difficulty, drink. That's one of the good things about my gig. So I was like, right, there's one principal fold that somehow you have to get round. And I don't know how. Like, I'm already in the bath in the most fucking unladylike position of my life. I'm going, I hope he likes this. And I'm then kind of, you have to sort of hold yourself apart and then a third hand comes in. Or you have to be really good with a shoehorn. I don't know. And the problem is you have to be really careful with that bit because that's where the clitoris lives. And I want to look elegant without circumcising myself. The worst part was when I'd finished, right, when you are blessed with big meaty curtains and you shave that area, thank you, you can then see what expression it's pulling. Thanks to a very unfortunate birthmark I have. Once I'd shaved it with everything hanging loose, that thing looked like a dog blowing a raspberry. The worst thing was when we actually came to having sex, right, I'd been sat down and then I sort of pulled my things down and so it was all squashed and gurning at him. He basically came face to face with Les Dawson. It just... I tried other things. So as well as sort of shaving everything, I was always going to bed with makeup on, but like full-blown makeup. And then in the morning, I'd wake up really early. Oh, look at this. She's nodding in recognition. Yes! Oh, good girl. Oh, how does your vagina look? Mine's huge. So you know what I'm going to... You sneak into the bathroom, don't you? And you quickly take it all off. And then you do a different look, don't you? Do the morning dew. And then you sleep back into bed. I don't know about you, but I was trying to go back to sleep, but not as I normally do, which is face down. I'm a plank. I was sleeping like this. Oh, yeah, I was trying to Disney this. And then he'd wake up and do the obligatory and go, oh, you look so nice in the morning. And I'd be like, I think I see a bunny at the window. I mean, like, I lasted a pretty long time until one morning I farted myself awake. I guess you can't hide from that. I just sort of rolled blue, and I was like, I think I smell a donkey at the window. We had a weird couple of misdemeanors. Like, I initially said to him one day, I said, would you ever dress up for sex? And he said, yeah, of course I would. What as? And I said, oh, I don't know. I did know. Said, a policeman? Now, 2 reasons why I picked policeman. 1, I wanted to fuck authority. And 2, I just wanted him to shoot me in the face. Now, what I didn't factor in is that my idea of a policeman and his idea of a policeman, vastly different concepts. Like, I'm from Dorset. I've never been in trouble with the law. So my idea of a policeman... What? No, worse than that. Worse than Inspector Morse. Like, my Bobby is on a bike. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought, like, my idea of a policeman is so retarded. It's basically heartbeat, do 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 do. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought he would just turn up in a navy blue jumper. I thought he'd have a little cap on, maybe. I thought he could use cake decorations, like the numbers on the shoulder. And I'd be there in the bedroom in a little skirt, like, do. And he'd come in and be all angry and authoritative, you know, like, oh, madam, have you been riding around the village on your bicycle without a light on? And I'd be going, oh, yes, I have, officer, what are you going to do about it? Woo! Do you know what I mean? Well, that was my idea. What I didn't factor in is that my boyfriend, teeny tiny criminal record. And really small. But it just meant that his experience of the police was very real and very rushed. On the day, I was sat there in the bedroom and I had my little skirt on, had my bicycle clips, safe sex. And then the door opened just a little bit and he went, hello? And I went, oh, what are you doing? And he went, I'm here and I'm dressed. Are you dressed? And I said, yes, but you can't come in as you. This is a fantasy. You have to come in character. And he's like, oh, okay. Are you ready? And I'm like, okay, go. And oh, God, no. He just ran in. All in one bodysuit, balaclava, and he had a gun. And he just runs in going, get on the fucking floor. I was like, To be honest with you, I was just glad he didn't turn up with 4 mates and a dog. He really tried, though. He really tried. You know, he customized his car and he called it the Riot Van. I know. You've not lived until you've seen a Peugeot with baking trays strapped to the windscreen. Don't know how he even drove that thing. So it was going very well. But then, you know, when you can feel like no matter how much you're hiding the real you starts coming to the surface. I'm so loving this couple. I was having one of those days where I was like trying on clothes, trying on something else. I've got nothing to wear. Yeah. Never, ever get in the middle of a fight between a woman and herself. Leave the woman to deal with that bitch in the mirror. She'll win the fight eventually, right? He didn't. He got in the middle. And you know, when you're already angry and you misconstrue things, he went, oh, honey, you'd make a bin bag look sexy. I took that as some kind of veiled murder threat. I was like, why are you imagining my body in a bin bag? What are you going to do to me now? He's like, whoa, no, I just meant like, you know, anything. I was like, a bin bag's really loose and smelly. Do you want me to dress up as Oscar the Grouch? Is that another fucking costume I've got to buy? He's like, no, that's not what I meant. And we had this fight and it got worse. And then suddenly, you know, bless him, he snapped. He went, oh, do you know what? Fine. Put your head in a bin bag then. I said, oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You'd like that because you don't like recycling. What the fuck are we talking about? I said, we're talking about the planet. And he was like, I recycle. And he runs off and he comes back and he just has a bag of carrier bags. And he I was, no. And he waves one at me and he goes, see, recycling. And do you know what he waved? It was Sainsbury's, so it was orange, right? Orange. And so I just went, oh, you'd like that, wouldn't you? You'd like me to put that bin bag on my head so I suffocate in a colour that clashes with my hair. Fuck you. And one time, my little voice inside was going, shh. Shh. But then the weirdest thing happened. I yelled at him, he yelled at me, we got closer and closer. I noticed how pretty his eyes are, and then his penis ended up inside me. And 20 minutes later, I was so calm. I don't know. If you've never tried makeup sex, give it a bash. Literally, because that's the first thing that usually happens. It was quite a shock when we decided to do it, because he kind of just dropped his trousers, swung round. I mean, he's a gifted boy. It reminded me of my sailing days. The problem is that I like rough sex, and he gets away with it ever so well. he looks like for a start, he looks like a character out of a Martina Cole novel. Yeah, like East End gravel slag, you know. I'm sure that's her biography. Shouty, cock me elbow smashers. He's one of them. You know. The problem is it can get you in trouble. Like, I turned up to a gig and the promoter runs up to me and says, "Are you okay? You look like a battered woman." Because I had short sleeves on and I had bruises. I mean, I bruise like a peach. Thankfully, I don't fuck like one. And the promoter just went, "Oh my God, what have you been doing?" I said, "I've been having sex." That's the only thing I could think of. And he went, "What position were you in to end up like that?" I said, "Well, I was like this." I know that looks a bit lazy, doesn't it? Do what you like, yeah, just leave the telly on. And the promoter said, "Oh my God, so did he make those bruises with his hands? What a brute." And I was like, "Nah, he's quite enthusiastic. He made those bruises with his knees." Such a beautiful 3D image. This girl's going, "Oh, I've got a cock headache." The weird thing is that you're not, do you know, you're not allowed to say you're into rough sex and women's rights. Yeah, you're not. Apparently the two don't gel. I disagree. I think being pinned to the bed makes me a better feminist. I really do. Because I feel really sorry for oppressed women because they can never understand the joy of being ploughed into the bed without thinking, "I'm going to go on a march somewhere." I find it's only when my mouth is full of cock that I'm grateful I can vote. The problem is that rough sex obviously leads to problems, right? It does. But problems also test the relationship. Now, I got something which I'm going to say, and now I can see there are quite a few women in this room, so relax. I got cystitis. Okay, I heard it. Did you hear a couple of women going, "Ah!" No, say that word. Some women genuinely believe when you hear that word, a nasty little elf runs in the room and jabs you at the piss hole with a needle. It's okay, you're all clean. What happened was we weren't very careful. You know, when you have sex, you have to have a reasonable level of hygiene. We didn't. We just had sex. He fell asleep on top of me, half in, half out. Everything got crusty, it all backed up, and then my kidneys failed. That's how I like to describe it at dinner parties. So I rang. I wanted to keep this a secret, because remember, I'm still trying to be Disney. So I rang my doctor and I went, "Hello, I've got cystitis, please help." And the woman on the other end of the phone goes, "Okay, the only appointment we've got is first thing. Can you bring us in a sample?" And I said, "Okay, how?" And she went, "Can you urinate into a sterilised container, like a jam jar?" I was like, "This is the modern NHS, and you want me to wee into a jam jar and wave it at a nurse?" I was like, "How is she going to cure me with your modern ways? Is she going to put a leech on my foof?" If I want one of those, I will go for a walk in Dorset. And plus, I thought, I don't want to be rude, but I don't know if I trust the authority of the receptionist. Like, I don't know if she's there on the other end of the line playing some kind of weird office top trumps. Where she's kind of there going, Marie, get the chart. I've just made a woman with cystitis piss into a jam jar." And Marie's there going, "That's nothing. I've got a woman with IBS. I've just made her fart into a carrier bag." But in the end, you know, you're in pain, so you think, well, I'll just go for it. So I just said, "Okay, thank you." So the next morning, I got up early and I got my little jar. And he caught me after I'd made my sample, right? So literally, and he just said, "What are you doing?" And I had to tell him everything. And I said, "I've got cystitis." And he said, "Why didn't you tell me? We'll go to the doctors together." So I'm there first thing in the morning driving the car. And the love of my boyfriend is sat next to me holding the jar. Now, I don't know what a sample is, medically speaking, so I just filled it up. It was one of those jars that my mother had made jam in, right? So it's pretty hefty. I mean, I'd taken the jam out first. Not that you could tell. Oh yeah, this thing had bits. It had bits, and it was like this pinky yellow, just disgusting, right? And I'm looking at this horrid spectacle, just like, really? Are we ever gonna make love again? Is he ever gonna respect me or love me? And in the end, I want to say so much to him. I want to say, look, I'm sorry, I'm a real person. And in the end, I think, well, I'm Titanic, it's all gonna fail. So I look at him and I say, are you okay? You look cold. And he said, I'm fine, your jar of hot piss is keeping my hand warm. By the way, darling, you might want to take the label off. You're about to hand in some plum and ginger jam. We get to the doctor, right? We get to the doctor. I say, give me the jar, sweetie. And as we're about to walk in, I look through the glass doors and I can see all these people. And there's like families and frail people. And I think, nobody needs to see this, right? So I do this. Yes, I hide it in my coat. And I go in because I'm being socially conscious. And I sit down and he sits next to me. The woman goes, Diane Spencer? Now, I assume this is the person I've been talking to on the phone. So I get up and I go, hi, I've got cystitis. Like I'm selling it to her. She takes one look at this and screams, oh my God, get it off the desk! And everybody looks around and I go, no, you told me to do this. She goes, oh, why would I tell you to do that? It's unhygienic. And she gets this tiny little pot that's like this big and she puts it next to me. She goes, you've got to do it in that. And I went, okay. So I unscrewed the jar, right? It was like I'd released wasps into her face. She just goes, no, you've got to go do a new one. There's a toilet around the corner. I was like, okay. So I put the lid back on. Now, like, the pot she's giving me is fucking this big. You're literally taking the piss. And, like, the jar's this big. And I'm like, is this part of her top trumps, you know? Like, is she just going to make me wee into ever-decreasing pots? Just because she's bored. Like, I'm going to hand this back. She's going to go, well done, next level. See if you can piss into a thimble. So I take the jar and my thing, and I go into the cubicle. Now, it's pitch black. So I take a step in. The light comes on. I'm like, oh, thank you. There's one cubicle. It's one thing. So I pour away my little sample. I was a bit sad. And I go in. Now, when you go to the toilet with cystitis, it hurts. It hurts so much. It is an eye-crossing, finger-clenching pain when you wee, right? You try having that pain when you're trying to hit a receptacle that fucking wide. I was lucky getting it in the jam jar with my aim, because when you are blessed with big meaty curtains, God has not given you a guidance system. Most days I sit and I hope. If I have sat on one of my flaps during the day and it is stuck halfway up my bottom, and I am not aware of this, and I start to pee, due to the surface tension of liquid, the urine will grip the flap and it will ride halfway up my butt cheek before anything falls in the toilet. So I'm there bent over in searing pain, scraping a sample off my own arse. And then the light went out. Because it's a motion-sensitive toilet. Insert your own pun. And so I start waving at Jesus. And I'm like, hi, Jesus, it's me. I know I'm usually on the roof, but right now I'm stuck in the toilet and the light's gone out. Can you help me, please? And when Jesus switches the light back on, I have got half my sample in this stupid little pot. The rest of it in my haste to alert Jesus to where I am. I flicked it up the door, and there's even a little bit on the ceiling, and it's just pinky yellow awfulness. And I don't know what happened really, like in real time. I just remember mumbling to myself, I didn't touch it. That's what I'm saying. I just left it. I washed my hands and I didn't do it. It wasn't me. I didn't do it. I'm sure it was there when I went in. And I went up to the reception and put my stupid pot down. And then as I went to sit down, he gets up and goes, 2 minutes, babe, and walks into the one cubicle. Bye. I'm like, oh, well, At least he's got a story to go out on, you know. Do you remember that time I dated that weirdo who pissed in jars? Oh, that'll be me! And then he comes out and he sits next to me and says, babe, did you see the piss up the door? And I said, oh, yeah. I mean, you hear these things about the NHS, but you don't realise how bad it is till you're actually here, you know. And then he went, was it yours? And you know when you want to lie to somebody, but you don't make it up quick enough, and they're watching your face as you're lying in your own mind, and you're kind of going, and I sort of went, oh, yeah. And I thought, this is it. This is the moment where the iceberg hits. And he just went, well, after a hurricane, there's always a little rainbow, isn't there? I was like, you don't want to leave? He's like, what? I'm not going to leave you. You're in the doctor's in pain. I'm not going to leave you. I was like, oh, yeah, that's why you're not going to leave. He's like, no, I'm not going to leave because I love you. I was like, I love you too, Kevin. His name's Kevin. That guy just went, good. It's good that in that tender moment you got his fucking name right. Do you know, when you're a clumsy person, love is the one thing you want to fall into. And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you can throw piss up a wall and he doesn't leave, that's what I call a keeper. And the nice part was that our relationship just blossomed from then. I've never been in love with somebody who loves me for me. And if right now you are in love with that person, it's fucking great, isn't it? If you're not in that state yet, believe me, you will be. There is hope for everybody. If somebody as angry and clumsy as I am gets there, nobody else has a problem. It's weird, like, I see things differently. Like, before, I hated poetry. I really hated poetry. I was like, there's no fucking punctuation. It's rubbish. But now I kind of get some of it, you know? Like, when I watch films, I kind of get that moment at the end, you know, where kind of the two characters are split up and one of them's about to die and the other one could run back and save them, or they could actually just escape to safety. Like, before, I was always like, just escape. Just run to safety. Go off with the bloke who looks after the camels. He's fit. Go with him. And then as soon as she went, no, I'm going to go save him, I was like, there's no career women in these films. But now I've gone the other way. I'm like, no, go back and save him. There's only one of him. If you have to die apart, cut your hand off and throw it to him so he can die touching your tender fingers. The more in love I am, the more IQ points I'm losing. The weird thing is that I realise now I'm never going to break up with anybody again. And it's a skill I'm sort of sad to lose. Like when I got really good at faxing. So we were together and it was very lovely. And then one day he said, Di, I want to take our relationship to the next level. And I said, okay. He went, yes. I want you to meet my kids. I knew he had them. Now, I don't know about you, but you know when you feel like you've just achieved a whole set of exams and somebody says to you, and now here's the fucking strange pop quiz that you know nothing about. It's like, I've only just been accepted for me. I have no idea what I'm going to be as a parent. Now, who here is a parent? Give me a cheer. Oh my God, that was one amazingly optimistic dude. He's like, fuck yeah, they're in the car. Yeah, that's great. Well done you. That's lovely. You see, because I've never wanted to actually have children, biologically speaking. I initially only thought I'd ever have kids if I needed spare organs. Mainly also because, like, I've met a lot of adults, and all adults started off as children, and some adults are assholes. And I just think I don't want to dedicate 18 years of my life to somebody I haven't even met yet. But I thought, well, I'm going to actually meet these children. I better do something. So I started researching, because I started thinking, well, what kind of mummy am I supposed to be? Because I don't know anything. They're already like 10 and 13. They've already done like the most of the pramming and the shitting and the eating bit, right? So I'm like, there's nothing out there. There is no information for the girlfriend of daddy. Does that make sense? Like, the closest I could get was David Attenborough films. where I'm supposed to rub him so that I smell correct, and then eventually we learn to eat together, and then one day I take the children aside and lactate, and it's just, I think that's just going to be creepy. And I was trying to work out what kind of mummy I am. Like, I eventually settled, I think I'm the super clingy one. You know, the one who dresses the children exactly the same as them? And they're like, no, mummy's your best friend. Don't go anywhere. You're going to stay with mummy. You don't need friends. Hang out with mummy. Get in the cupboard. I've drawn a unicorn on the back. It's Narnia. Don't leave mummy. I'm going to be one of them. Like, I think my mothering icon is, you know the Terminator films? You know, like Sarah Connor in the Terminator films? Like, she basically runs away from the Terminator because she's pregnant. And then in the next film, she's had the child. And she kind of... See, that's how much I know about children. She's had the child. And... it reaches forward. And she has spent the whole of the child's life growing it up saying, you're special, you're more important than the other kids, all the killer robots are going to come back from the future. They're all going to look like the governor of California. They're all going to come down here. You need to learn how to knife fight. Here, I'm going to teach you how to ride a motorbike. I know you're only 3, but here's a grenade. Like... I think that's my mothering icon, you know? And I was telling him this, I said, I'm really nervous about meeting your kids because I don't have the budget. I don't have the budget to turn somebody into the next savior of mankind. I'm just going to have to do the Austrian method of locking them in a basement with some weights. No, Arnie, not Fritzl. In the Brezaps. Your face. And he went, no, calm down, Di, calm down. Like, it's just, we're going to the aquarium. So on the actual day, right, I'm stood there, it's on the South Bank, and I'm there, London Aquarium, and it's bank holiday, there's people everywhere. And he appears, and next to him are 2 little girls. And one of them's Ginger. And it's my shade. I was so excited, I just ran up to the Ginger, and I was like, look at you, you're so pretty. I mean, the other one's brunette, I don't know. I was like, oh, look at you, we're going to have a great day. And I just sort of grabbed her by a big ginger head. I said, come on, we're going to be best friends. And she went, Dad, your girlfriend's really weird. I was like, my name's Mummy now. You know what? When you're a ginger person and you have a ginger child, nobody asks questions. Everybody just assumes that belongs to that. Like, even facially, you can look completely different. And like the woman behind the till looked at the little ginger one, looked at me and went, oh, she looks so like her mother. So I was stood there thinking, I know, I'm struggling with that. Now, at some point, right, we're in the aquarium and he has to go to the toilet. So I'm left there with these 2 effective little strangers, right? And it looks awkward. So it looks to outside people like we have had a fight. So now the other parents are kind of giving us a bit of leeway because they think there's been a fight in the family. And then one guy does this. He walks past dragging his child and he looks at me and he goes, oh. And I was like, huh? But then somebody else did it. This is how parents communicate. They kind of hoot and moo at each other. It's the way that they share the experience of, well, I can't fucking cope, can you? And I wanted to try it, you know, so I was stood there and they were kind of a bit awkward. We didn't know what to say to each other. And then this woman walks past, oh, bless her, she had like one here, one there, one was climbing out. And she's kind of staggering around like this. And I went, whoa. And she went, parenting's great. It's so social. And eventually I was like, come on, we should do something, you know. So I said, do you want to go look at the clownfish? You know, like they're in the Finding Nemo film. Do you want to go look at them? And they were like, oh, yeah, well, okay, which tank is that? It's just that one there. And as they walked forward, this bloke pushed in front of them, dragging his ugly child. I know you're supposed to say, all children are pretty. No, they're not. That one wasn't. It looked like a large intestine in a onesie. And he pushes in front of my 2. And I was like, you know, I was about to say something, and then somebody else did it, because it's a bank holiday Monday, and they're all fighting for real estate in front of the fish tank. And I don't know what happened. I think I grew claws. I just kind of elbowed my way to the front, and I just went, my children need to see the fish! And all of the parents moved, but so did the fish. And I was like, quick, come. And we stood there, and that was when he said he came out of the toilet, and he saw us three stood there, holding hands, looking at an empty tank, which I think was a metaphor for our unwritten future. And do you know what? The children were so delighted I had screamed in an aquarium. I was suddenly the fucking bee's knees. Suddenly it was all go. It was like, that was amazing. What? So like, why are there no fish in there? Is it because you screamed at the tank and everybody ran away? I was like, no, it's not because I screamed at the tank at all. That's a load of rubbish. It's because fish are shy, really, because all the other fish weren't shy. I was like, no, they are. They're all shy. And that's why you will never see fish in tanks, and you'll never see animals in zoos, and you'll never see workmen on motorways. So we end up having a lovely day, and then at the end of it, you know, we're going our separate ways, and sort of, Kev says, okay, go say goodbye. And I was expecting bye. I got a cuddle. And there's so small, hug a child. No, don't. Just go find one. Hi. They're so tiny, and they're so fragile. And I was like, oh my God, you're so small. Don't worry, I'll look after you. You're better than the other children. We're going to build you up. Come on, I bet you're the savior of mankind. No, take her away, I'm fine. Take her away, but next time I want matching jackets. Going to tell you, I was so excited and so happy. I actually rang up my mum. I rang up my mum and I said, I know I was a pain in the arse when I was a child, and I am so fucking sorry. And I told her all about it, and she was very happy. And she said, so are they going to come down and visit us in Dorset? And I said, well, maybe. And she said, great. I'd love that, because I've been going through some of your old stuff. By the way, who was that lad you used to go to Tesco's car park with? What was his name? Paul? Was it Paul? Hang on, no, I'm getting a Peter. It was like having a phone call with Derek Acora. I was like, Mum, have you been reading my diaries? She went, no. Patrick? Was it Patrick? And I went, Mum, it was Philip, all right? Philip! Philip? How am I going to get Philip from a P? Why didn't you write it with an F? And suddenly I saw what was going to happen. I thought, no, I am not going to bring my beautiful family, and I'll take the brunette, I'm not going to bring my beautiful family down to Dorset for my mother to then confront them. Like, they have just got to accept me. I am not going to make them accept past die of Tesco's fingering fame. So I said, right, okay, nearly there. I'm nearly fucking there. So what I do is I think, right, this is the last thing I need, and then my life is perfect. I have no skeletons in the closet. I'm fucking clear. I go back to Dorset, and I go, Mum, can I help you clear out? And I get every single diary I ever wrote, and I made a pile in the garden, and I set fire to the whole thing, and I stood there watching my own private Nuremberg. My main thought was, I can see why they had a brass band. And then the wind picked up, and I got cold, so I went in. And then a few minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and I open the door, and a man from the village has stood there. And he says, hello. And I say, oh, hello. And he's wearing a little tweed suit. And he says, I'm terribly sorry to bother you, but it appears your hedge is on fire. Now, my first thought is this some kind of ginger joke? And then I think, no, it's not. We're a different generation. I'm like, hashtag, like me, poke me, whereas he's like, Bluetooth, oh yes, cure that with gin. So I know now, okay, good. So I kind of say, oh, well, thank you, which hedge? I know which hedge it is. I know where I lit the fire. It's the little purple one, the buddleia. And he goes, the big one. So I go, right. So I step outside. I look round the corner, and the little hedge has acted as a taper to the 25-foot-high, 12-foot-wide conifers. Like, these are proper Leylandii conifers that separate our garden from a field, and it's a fucking blaze. And my first thought is, that's not a fucking hedge. Where have you been, sir, that a hedge is the size of a double-decker bus and it's on fire? It looks like Croydon. But do you know what? We're in Dorset, and he's in a tweed suit, and I'm in a tracksuit, right? He outranks me. We look like a depressing paternity test. And I am not allowed to correct him. It would go round the village in a fucking second. So what do? I do the worst thing a feminist at 32 should do. Daddy! Daddy! There it is. What? The hedge is on fire! And he goes, the what? And I say, excuse me, the hedge is on fire! And he goes, which hedge? Now, I want to be honest with him so he knows the emergency of the situation, but I can't because Tweed stood there, so I can't be honest. I can't say, well, you're not going to believe this. It's not the Buddleia and it's not the Nasturtia. It's actually the Leylandii. No. The big one! And my dad, you can hear him going, for fuck's sake, she spent her whole fucking life in Dorset. She doesn't know what any of the fucking trees are. What the fuck was the point? And a fucking education. Oh, hello. And then he steps out, sees this thing, and he just goes, that's not a fucking hedge. My mother runs out and goes, holy shit, my bush is burning. At this point, we break, right? We break. My dad runs to get the hose. My mum runs towards the fire, and I run inside and I get a bucket. When I come outside, my dad's got the hose and he's hosing down like the base of the tree. My mother has actually got in the car, which was actually parked near the trees, and she's backing it away, screaming, I told your father to park it at the rear. I run forward with my bucket, and I'm like, I'm going to save the day. I stop here, right? And the water leaves in just one lump. It's just one lump, like a glass dolphin. And it just goes over my head. Like, there's not even at the fire, just like this. And it goes glass dolphin, shoo, into the ground behind me. I'm like, no, you've gone the wrong way. You need to go this way. Come back. And just as I do this, the wind that has caused all this problem dies down. And Dad can start to hose it down properly. But as he does this, it starts raining. But it's not raining rain, it's raining ash and paper. Burning bits of paper you can still read, and it's not just falling on our house. It's now falling on the field and the nosy neighbour's house to the left, and the field and the nosy neighbour's house to the right. I mean, you used to be able to find pornography under a bush. I've now made it rain the accompanying York notes. So I start running around screaming, please, nobody pick up the paper, it's fine, I'll deal with this, don't worry about it. And my mother picks up two separate bits, glances at them and says, why do you want to finger the cat? What? She said, why do you want to finger the cat? I said, I don't, I want to marry the cat. She said, why do you want to marry a cat? And then my dad said, is this your fucking fault? And I said, yes, it is. He said, why didn't you watch the fire? I said, I got cold. He said, you're not too old. I said, cold. She got cold, Des. I said, look, we've just had a fire. Where is the cat? You're not seeing him again. So we're back on the roof. And I was sat on the roof again. And I was sat from my bedroom, what used to be my bedroom, sat on the windowsill, legs out on the roof. And the phone rang, and it was Kevin, and he said, are you coming back tonight? And I said, no, I'm grounded. And Mum comes up, and she starts chatting, and she says, you all right, dear? I said, no, I'm a disaster. And she went, I know. It's quite spectacular sometimes. And we have this chat, and then she says, Di, I know that I've been doing all these seeds and things, but it's not really working out. And I don't want to wake up one day, not know where I am, and find out I've pissed myself. I said, Mother, that's the entire plot of Geordie Shore. You'll be doing what the young people do. She said, no, I don't think you get what I'm saying. I don't want to grow old and become a nuisance. I would like to die with dignity. I would like to plan my death. And I think you are the destructive force that can carry this out. I said, no, and we're not even going to discuss it. And she went, look, I'm going to die. I said, I don't want to talk about it. She said, your dad's going to die. I said, don't talk about dad's death. She said, look, grow up. One day your father's going to go stiff and you're going to have to face it. I've heard drowning is a peaceful way to go. So I said, aha, you can't drown because you sponsor the lifeboats. She said, aha, I've stopped. that's how they work, isn't it? I know why she's saying the lifeboats and drowning at sea. She's hoping that Prince William is on shift. She's hoping that if she does try and drown herself and she's unsuccessful, she'll wake up to see the future prince kind of winching her out of the sea, and she could look at him and say, "Have you felt how wet I am?" So I'm about to fight with her tooth and nail on this. And then I suddenly stop. I think, wait a minute. All of these problems have always arisen because of the way I am. What if I stop being the way I am? What if I stop fighting? Okay? And I suddenly think of it of her perspective. She is a very dignified person. She wants to die with dignity. I have trouble living with it. We are definitely opposite ends of the spectrum. I am a very destructive force. She is a very creative force. My mother makes jam. She does. And then I piss in the fucking jar. I feel like every good deed I've been put that she does, I've been put on the earth to counteract. Do you know what I mean? At the same time that she was there doing a march for breast cancer, wearing a T-shirt where she designed a bra, because she didn't want to actually wear her hundiwear on the outside. Well, I'm not wearing my hundiwear in public. So she made a bra picture on a T-shirt, right? At the same time she's doing that, I'm stood there yelling at the slut walk. Do you see what I mean? And my mother is just a very conscientious person. Like, when I want to look elegant for my partner, I shave my vagina. My mother is so nice, she made this. I know. She made it for me. And you know what? She made it because she came to watch the show, because it never had this before. And she watched it all the way through and she went, "I like it, but I'm going to make you a roof." I said, "Really?" She went, "Yep, no daughter of mine's doing a theatre show topless." And what have I got? I've got my crumpled up vagina. Do you know what? I haven't even told you the worst part of that story. It was really bad. Because when you need to understand how bad it was. Like, because when I came to show it to him, I had to judge it as one lone item. And I'd had to stick tissue on it because I needed to stop the bleeding somehow. And when you look at it, like, I got a piece of paper, I cut a hole in it so I could just judge it by itself and not look at the rest of me. Can I tell you something? It looks like my dad's chin. That is the one way I resemble my father, you know? I mean, even with the lips, I could do the voice. I was like, "What? What?" That's not a fucking hedge. It's not anymore. So that's us. So I thought, do you know what? No. I'm going to be more like her. So I said, I'm sorry, Mum. Actually, tell me your plan. Tell me your dignified plan. She said, "Well, I thought you and I could sit where you are on your roof." And I said, "Oh, that's nice." She said, "Yeah, I thought we could have a bottle of wine and watch the sunset over Dorset. It's nice at a distance." I said, "That sounds lovely, Mum." She said, "Yeah. Then I need you to bend me over, shove a Mars bar up my arse, and shove me off the roof." Did I mention she's a diabetic? Okay. Mum's a diabetic. So as soon as she said this, I realised her plan was that if the fall off the roof doesn't kill her, the Mars bar that I, as her eldest child, have shoved up her rear end will. Now, as soon as she said this, I had this image of me being stood on my roof and looking down and seeing my mother face first in a flower bed with her bottom sticking up. And you know that the Mars bar will be sticking up out of that. And thanks to her diet, that Mars bar will now be covered in seeds. And I thought, really, this is the result of not being myself. I turned my mother into the world's most offensive bird feeder. And I thought, no, I'm sorry, I'm just going to be my fucking self fighting. And I said, "Why can't you eat the Mars bar?" And she said, "I can't do that, that would be suicide." I said, "What do I do with your body when you're smashed on the floor?" She said, "I won't care, I'll be dead, put me in a bin bag." I was like, who are you trying to look sexy for now? I think what I've been trying to tell you is that, I'm an angry and clumsy person, but my parents love me for me, and I found somebody who loves me for me, and even his children do too. And definitely, if it works for me, it's going to work for everyone. So whatever angry little dwarves you have in your kind of consciousness. I don't know why I said dwarves. Do you know what I mean? I was thinking of personality traits. I was like, happy, grumpy, sleepy. Oh, God. Can we just cut that bit? What I'm trying to say is that if it happens for me, it certainly will happen for everybody else. So I don't need to be on my roof anymore, so I'm going to get down. Thank you very much for coming to Hurricane Diane. Thank you and good night. Let's go.
It was absolutely brilliant. I've seen it before too, but tonight was even funnier than usual.
I suppose as a girl you just really relate to all her stuff. She's so sort of your friend.
I'm on the mailing list for Soho Theatre. Next time she's here I'll be back.
Just the amount of detail she goes into, the explicit detail.
I think every time I see her, there's always a bit more, and every time it's kind of like, oh my God. So yeah, no, really, really funny.
I thought she was just a real pro. I really enjoyed it.